Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 5 great symphonies with organ besides Saint-Saëns No. 3, which of course is the famous symphony with organ. You know, one of the reasons it's so famous is because posterity has decided that there should be only one symphony with a major concertant organ part, and Saint-Saëns is it. But there are quite a few more, and some wonderful contemporary ones that you should hear. So here's a short list just to give you a sense of what's out there. There is more stuff than this, don't get me wrong. But symphonies with organ are interesting. They're inherently interesting because the organ is, in a sense, a symphony orchestra all by itself, with thousands of pipes and billions of different stops made in imitation of various instruments. So it's almost like having two orchestras, but they respond very differently because the organ can sustain notes like forever, as long as you keep your finger on the thing. The organ also has a real problem handling rhythm, whereas symphony orchestras, of course, are very, very good at handling rhythm. So the musical qualities and the materials that will be traded back and forth are also going to be quite different. And the organ is, of course, the ecclesiastical instrument par excellence. And so some of the music written for it might be of an overtly spiritual quality, whereas the orchestra could be profane. So you have the sacred and profane business. Well, all of that happens in these works in various ways and to various degrees. And it's a fascinating study in sonority and texture and timbre to hear each of these works. So first, Charles-Marie Widor. Now, there is a difference between an organ symphony and a symphony with organ. Organ symphonies, as we use the term these days, generally mean solo organ pieces organized in some sort of suite or symphonic form. And it was a specialty of French organists in the latter half of the 19th century, and Widor wrote like 10 of them. But he also wrote symphonies for organ and orchestra, and they're very good, including his own third symphony. He actually wrote, I think, 4 symphonies that include a major organ part. But the Symphony No. 3 for organ and orchestra, Opus 69, was composed in the 1890s in direct homage to Saint-Saëns' Third Symphony, his own Third Symphony. And so you've got 2 third symphonies by 2 French composers, both for organ and orchestra, and the Widor is virtually unknown, but it's been recorded quite a few times, and it's marvelous. It's a wonderful, wonderful work. I mean, tuneful and exciting and full of gorgeous sonorities and luscious harmonies, and oh, you gotta love it. So get it and listen to it, for heaven's sake. It's marvelous. Widor was a very good composer. Even if you don't like organ music, he wrote a bunch of other things that don't have organs in them, and they're really, really good works. He was a fine late Romantic master, basically, who doesn't get much attention, basically, because he's French. So let's solve that problem, shall we? Next, Tournemire, another fascinating French composer from the turn of the 20th century. His Symphony No. 4 is subtitled Page Symphonique. It's not a long work. It's about 20 minutes long, so thereabouts, in one continuous movement, but it has a lengthy central meditation, slow movement, for organ solo. And the rest of the work is orchestral on either side of that. And it's an absolutely lovely, haunting piece. There's only one recording of it, I think, with my good my ex-good friend, I mean, he passed away, my late good friend, the conductor Antonio de Almeida, with the Moscow Symphony on Marco Polo. And it's a beautiful work, and it uses a tam-tam that I donated to the orchestra, so you can hear it. Splendidly beautiful tam-tam, perfect for the passage in question. But the organ solo is meditative and solemn and prayerful, and it's just an incredibly moving piece of music that, of course, never gets played, and that nobody knows, and that doesn't take too much time, and that you're going to love. So give that a listen as well. It's really, really different in the handling of the organ and orchestra combination. Next, Copland. Yeah, Copland, Appalachian Spring, Fanfare for the Common Man, Rodeo, Hoedown, all that stuff. That Copland. He wrote his first symphony for Nadia Boulanger, who was an organist, and it's for organ and orchestra. He later revised it for orchestra alone, taking out the organ part, because it's hard to find a good concert hall organ, especially one that can play Copland's music, because Copland's music, as you probably know, is very rhythmic, and kind of, especially at this point in his first symphony, he's getting into like Latin rhythms and stuff, and the cha-cha sound of it, and the organ is really curious in that context, in this sort of contemporary music context. But it's an absolutely wonderful work, and fascinating in its original version. I think the original version is better than the revision, because I just think that the sound of it is so characterful and unique. And that's definitely a piece worth exploring. Then there's Swedish composer Ture Rangström, who died in, I think, 1947. Rangström was an interesting guy. He wrote lots of songs, more than 200 of them, and then orchestral pieces, and very little else. There's a little bit of chamber music, including 4 symphonies, which do not follow the normal Germanic symphonic formal sort of paradigm. They are impressionistic, stream of consciousness, tone poem-y type things for big orchestra with lots of good tunes. They're very melodic. He was well trained, but he wasn't interested in counterpoint particularly. And his 4th symphony, subtitled Invocatio, has an extensive organ part, and it's just wonderful work. Oh my goodness. We used one of its movements on my album Earquake, the one that my dear friend Zerlin Eller and I produced in Finland, thanks to a lot of help from the Ondine label. It's the world's loudest classical music album. If you don't have it, you should get it. And there's a movement from this symphony on it. And it's lots of fun with its clattering xylophone and organ theme sort of snaking along the base of the orchestra. Oh, it's just really nifty. And then, last but not least, a very modern piece that we've talked about recently, Paul Rudder's, his Symphony No. 4, which is also an organ symphony, which he wrote basically in the shadow of Saint-Saëns' organ symphony. But this is a fully modern piece with very close integration between the orchestra and the organ. And like all of Rudder's music, it turns violent and almost statically meditative, very passionate, not following any particular school or harmonic type. It just does what it does, and it does what it does very effectively. And you can get it on Bridge Records. It's just a beautiful, beautiful piece. So there you have it. 5 great symphonies with organ, besides the Saint-Saëns No. 3, and they range from works that are contemporary with the Saint-Saëns to works that are very, very recent, only in the past decade or so, or 2. So you've got over a century of music for organ and orchestra, symphonies for organ and orchestra, and a wonderful fraternity they are, or sorority, depending on how you want to do it. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.